Personally, the only kind of smoking I approve of comes from the barrel of a gun.
Should anyone trust us?
No, absolutely not.
Sound advice.
I would say so, especially after last week's disaster.
Huh?
We've been inundated with postcards. We forgot to name our favourite lines from the episode.
Oh, yes. Okay, what's yours?
I quite liked on the plane when they're having the fight, the final punch. He doesn't give a reason and he's asked why. He says it was gratuitous. I like that.
I did enjoy that one. I'd have to go with the line where he tries to refuse pizza because of his macrobiotic diet.
I enjoyed that as well myself.
Yeah. Anyway, this week's episode, how are you junior slimeball?
Junior slimeball indeed. I suppose that makes you senior slimeball.
Yeah, on this occasion.
Spanish slimeball.
Not bad. Yeah, you okay?
I'm not too bad this week.
Yeah, quite warm.
It's a little bit toasty.
Drinking tea.
It's always good.
Too late for coffee. I've got my decaf tea here.
It's very masculine.
Yeah, try to cut a coffee out after... Don't drink any coffee after about 2 o'clock now.
In the morning.
Back in the day, 8, 9, 10 espressos.
Yeah, the early days of the Columbo podcast.
We had to.
Caffeinated.
Up all night, up all day.
Just recording episode after episode.
Yep, people didn't appreciate that. The fact is, we recorded the entire run in a month.
Oh, it was actually in 3 days.
It was.
We did the whole lot. All 200 hours.
This weekend, we have Sledge yet again in another situation.
It's a very specific scenario, once more.
Fancy chatting about it?
Well, I suppose I could do it by way of a summary.
Crack on.
In To Sledge with Love, Hammer and Duro are assigned to a local high school with some challenging students. Determined to show the delinquents they can put their urges to better use, Hammer intervenes in their arrangement with a local crook named Roscoe. A violent showdown ensues, but will the boys make the right choice? And can Hammer persuade them to use their energy productively? Or will it be goodbye, Mr. Chips?
Thank you, Iain. Entertaining and educational.
Certainly educational.
You referred to them as boys in your summary there, but it's typical of these American school shows that they'll look about 30.
Yeah.
Not very boyish, are they?
They're in no way boyish.
And in fairness, it could be that they've been kept behind so many years, because one does mention about... one mentions being in jail for 2 years. The other mentions that he is married. He is an old lady.
Yeah, it's like a cross between Grease and West Side Story.
Yeah. That's the sort of level of threat and intimidation you get off these characters.
Yeah, you expect them to break into dance at some stage.
And singing.
Yes. Climbing the wall bars.
We begin in the precinct, and we see a very obnoxious looking man refusing Mayjoy's request to put out his cigar.
Very rude man indeed.
Sledge resolves this in the only way he knows how.
He does.
Which is?
He shoots the cigar out the guy's mouth.
Now, I can't remember which came first, but that was also a scene in Police Academy. Tackleberry did exactly the same thing to a similarly obnoxious creature.
It just seems like the natural way to handle such a situation. I'm pretty sure Columbo did the same thing in Commodore.
He did, and then took him into the cells and gave him a right good beating with a rubber hose.
That was the unusual episode of Columbo, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I've got a bit of a problem in my notes. I've taken to writing trunk as Trump.
That is a problem.
I don't know if it's me or if it's autocorrect. I'm going to blame me.
I have also got a similar problem in my notes because there's Turk and Trunk in this episode.
Ah, that's a bad one.
So I may get them mixed up a few times, so forgive us if we make a mess of this. Going back to the cigar incident, Dory exclaims to Hammer that, you just missed him by an inch. His face by an inch, and what does Hammer say?
Yeah, he's a little bit off.
Yeah, must be pulling slightly to the left.
I don't know if he means he meant to miss by less or he meant to hit him in the face.
I think he meant to hit him in the face.
Right.
We head into Trunk's office.
Yeah, and you expect the sort of typical Hammer.
Yeah.
But it doesn't come.
No, it doesn't. Hammer himself is shocked that he's not being yelled at, but Trunk has... Well, he's got other problems on his mind.
He basically says, what's the point? He says, there's this school. It's a great school. A fantastic school. Mexico paid for the school. Oh, wait, I'm getting mixed up again.
Oh, that's... yes, that's that.
It's a terrible school.
Yeah, apologies if you're listening to this in 3 years' time.
People will still get that. That'll be
Okay.
fine. It's a failing school. The children are behaving terribly. The teachers are terrified. And the board of the school have been in touch with the police.
The board just called. It seems they've got a problem with gangs at one of the schools in our district. It is total chaos over there. The kids aren't learning anything. The teachers are afraid to come to work. It is utter hell.
How's the food?
Hammer, I'm talking about Lloyd H. Langram Memorial High School.
Oh, I've heard of Langram High. When did it become Memorial?
About 10 minutes ago. Now, the board is asking for help from one of our law enforcement officials. And they've specifically requested you, Hammer.
Now, wait a minute. I don't want to babysit for some wimpy, runny-nosed zit faces.
Haven't they tried any alternatives? What about that Straighten Out program where convicts warn youths about prison life?
They brought prisoners in to speak at the school last month. The kids aided them in making an escape.
Oh.
Now, these animals are violent, destructive, and they have no respect for authority.
Don't worry, Captain. I won't be suckered in by their virtues.
There's a few things I like about that clip.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, Hammer asking about the food is brilliant.
Yeah, just so casually throws it in. It's a great delivery of the line.
And Trunk's description of the criminals being aided in escaping by these pupils was great.
Yeah.
And obviously the reference by Sledge to their virtues.
Yeah,
is
typical
superb.
Hammer.
It's a little condensed bit of the best parts of this show.
Yep. We head over to Langham High School and we're outside and we see the sign has been changed to Hangham High School.
Yes. That's controversial language.
The place, even outside, we can see is in turmoil with these gangs running around, people being beaten up, and even the principal has a problem.
He can't park his car where he wants to park.
No, he's just told, go away, this is now our spot. And he very timidly obeys their demand.
Yeah, he doesn't... maybe he resisted initially, back in the day, but by now he has lost.
Yeah, he's totally beaten down. He's given up being a
He
principal.
just wants to
hasn't he?
get through the day, get home.
We see Sledge and Dory arrive.
Did you like his sunscreen?
I did, with the gun on it. Yeah. Dory notes a suspicious-looking car talking to a gang.
Yeah, this is the first sign of what's really going on.
We're inside the school, and again we can see that they're running riot. There's bullying of teachers and students. A nervous teacher is in a class, and he's writing a line on the blackboard.
Yeah, it looks like a reasonable instruction to the children.
Yes. Hammer is impressed with this. He says, well, at least you're trying to instill some sort of discipline.
But it's not really. He's being made to write lines by the children.
Yeah. He then shows them an apple that he has been given.
Nails hammered through it.
Yep. Sledge uses his authority quite well, doesn't he?
Well, he pulls his gun out and Dory stops him.
He stands in front of the class and demands everyone takes a seat, and they obey.
But not before dropping a child out the window.
Yeah, someone is hanging another student by the ankles.
At least it wasn't a cat.
So Sledge introduces himself and his gun, whilst Turk, who is the leader of this gang,
Yeah, he makes a late entrance.
yeah, and he hits on Dory.
He does a wee bit. It says a badge with legs, he says.
Yeah. Hammer's not happy with this attitude, and he admits that whilst he doesn't always read criminals their rights, at least he can read.
That's a good point.
One of the students say, yeah, what have you read? And he says, or what's your favourite book? He says, War and Peace, the first half.
Yes, he likes the war.
Love that line.
I like the bit when he says, you kids have been getting away with murder. And one of the gang says, what do you mean getting away? I had 2 years.
yeah.
I suspect that's just a line given what we see later.
The gang get up to go. I think they claim that they've got to go to the track, and Sledge doesn't believe that they're in the track team.
But Dory stops Hammer from touching the kids.
Yep. Actually, the response is that no, that they've got a bet on one of the races at the track.
Yes.
So yeah, Hammer is really frustrated because they're underage, apparently. they're minors, and therefore they can't be manhandled.
That's right.
He wants to throw them off the roof.
He does. He has to wait till they're 18 though. We catch up with him back at the precinct.
Yeah, he's doing some paperwork. Trunk turns up and is unhappy that Sledge has spent over £1,000.
$1,000.
$1,000.
It's £1,000 nowadays after this Brexit nonsense.
Yeah. Hammer claims that they have been spent wisely on teaching aids.
That's it. He wanted a few teaching aids and he's requisitioned $1,000 for
Yep.
it.
Dory then informs Hammer that the licence plate of the car that they saw at the school belongs to, or is registered to a well-known racketeer named Ralph Roscoe.
That name's going to come back up
It will.
immediately because we're heading over to Roscoe's.
See, that's what I thought, but I don't like. It can't be because
But I think the kids have their own garage facility,
Yeah,
or
how
they have
can
access to facilities.
yeah, that's a bit odd, isn't it? How do these high school kids have an auto shop?
I don't know.
And it's not Roscoe's because we find that out later.
Yeah. So it's not his facility, but they are working on a car for him there.
Yes. We see the gang polish a Mercedes when Roscoe arrives, and he's accompanied by his hoods.
Hoodlums.
Yeah. To give the gang their cut.
Yeah, it's not very much money.
$500 or something.
It looks like a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things.
No.
He is delighted that they're not learning anything in school.
Yep. He's told about Sledgehammer, and he admits he's already aware of this super cop.
We start to see Sledge's revenge next.
Yes, we see his teaching aids in practice. So we're in the school parking lot. The gang arrive to find Sledge blocking their space, or the principal's space. What happens?
Well, they drive in the space anyway, and he tells them then that they can't park there, but not to back up.
No,
He challenges them not to back up, doesn't he?
well, what happens is one of the gang members says to the driver, back up, take a run at him.
Right, that's it. But Hammer says don't.
He quietly says, no, don't. They do, and what happens?
Well, their tyres are immediately deflated because there's spikes in the ground.
And at that point, Sledge steps to the side and apologises for blocking a sign which warns them about this.
He's obviously put the sign there as well as the spikes himself.
Yep. Keeping himself on the right side of the law. Bending the rules in.
Yeah. They meet up again outside the classroom where he refers to them as greaseheads, which I like because I think it's kind of got a double meaning.
In what sense?
That they are got all this grease in their hair.
Yeah.
But also I think it might be sort of a play on the fact that they work with cars.
Yeah. And a nod to Grease, the
movie. Or the musical, yeah. They won't let Sledge search them for weapons before they enter the classroom.
No. So he appears to reluctantly accept this, and he ushers them in.
And as they go in, a metal detector goes off. But
Yep, just like airport security.
more so for Hammer than any of the kids.
Yeah.
For some reason, they then give him all their weapons. I suppose once he knows they've got them, they have to hand them over.
Yeah, but what he should have done was sent them back out to come back through, because they might have had 5 on them.
Yeah, and only handed over 1 or 2.
Anyway.
While he's doing that, the detector goes off again.
And Hammer spins around, and what does he say?
He says, "Hold it, creep," but it's not a hoodlum at all.
It's a young girl with a mouthful of braces.
He kind of panics and he says, "Orthodontry is good."
Brilliant. He then, this makes me shudder, he writes his name on the board.
Yeah, but he's got a short piece of chalk and long fingernails.
Yeah, and everyone in the place, including myself, squirms.
I quite like that sound. I don't know why.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh no, it's dreadful. He then sees a poorly spelled threat on one of the pull downs on the board.
Yeah, he corrects it on the blackboard.
Yep.
And he's asked where the regular teacher is. He says he's got an easier assignment. He's a janitor at Chernobyl. This can't be long after Chernobyl.
No, so it's fairly sensitive, I thought.
Yes, I would say so.
But yeah, so he corrects the spelling and he adds a little bit himself. I think it says something like die, and they spelled the word die wrong, but he says die, maggot.
Yes.
You know, that's how you insult someone. That's what you should be doing.
Hammer's got these sort of pull down canvases at the blackboard as well, and he's got Darwin type graphics. He's trying to look for the missing link.
Yeah, well, first of all, he pulls it down and says this is a picture of modern man. He pulls down the second and he calls it caveman. And as you rightly said, he's looking for the missing link. So he pulls down the third picture, and what is it?
It's a picture of Turk.
And the rest of the class laugh. So I think Hammer's turning, he's humiliating this gang, and Turk specifically, in front of the classmates.
It's a sort of power play, isn't it?
Yes. Turk can't handle this. He doesn't know how to, he's never been in a position where he has been the victim.
No, and Hammer challenges him. He says, "Can you prove that you're a Homo sapien?"
Yeah. He says, "What are you talking about? I'm normal. I've been with lots of girls."
Yes. And Turk then tries to fight Hammer and is basically humiliated.
Well, he says to Hammer, "You wouldn't be so tough without your gun." So Hammer puts his gun aside.
He does.
And they decide to fight, but before they do, Turk reminds him that he's not allowed to lay a finger on him as he is a minor.
That's right.
So what happens?
Basically, Hammer turns Matador and essentially taunts Turk into humiliating himself. He slides him across a desk, he ends up with his head in a globe. It's just
And then he walks out and Turk claims that Hammer is dead meat.
not very convincingly.
No. Back to Trunk's office.
Dory's uncovered Roscoe's scheme now. She's been working on this. And it turns out that the kids have stolen Hammer's car.
Yes. This is an interesting scene. Hammer arrives and we get more insight into Hammer's personality.
Yeah.
He wants to try and recover his car and try and find out what this gang are up to and see if he can put a stop to it. And surprisingly, Dory herself says, you should give up. They're hopeless. They're beyond saving.
Yeah, Hammer's not ready to accept that.
Well, I knew another kid that was hopeless. He made it tough on everybody in school. He was a bully, so busy proving how tough he was, he didn't care what he did to anybody. He ran the school ground, he disrupted the classroom.
And I suppose you took care of him.
No. You see, that bully was me. But I learned a lesson. If someone gives these kids the proper guidance, they can do wrong for the right reasons. All right, forget it. No, just forget it. I'll take care of it myself, all right? I don't need your help. I don't need anybody's help. Doro, could you give me a ride to the school? Because kids stole my car.
I loved that. Thought it was brilliant.
It was good. You learned a bit about Hammer there.
The comic timing at the end was great as well, where he comes back in and he has to meekly sort of request a ride.
It's great. But for me, I don't see... It felt wrong, given what we'd heard a couple of weeks ago with Kogan about how Hammer was always second best and he grew up second best and he got into the police and he was second best, to then portray himself as a bully. Whether he went to a different high school than Kogan, I don't know.
But we don't know when this bullying took place. It may well be that... Or again, this... I don't know. If Kogan was perhaps even a year older than Hammer, so they're not in the same class, so Hammer's getting bullied outside of school by Kogan.
So he takes it out on the kids at
Yeah,
school.
so when he's at school, he's now the aggressor and the bully himself is
Possible.
Yeah.
It just kind of sat a bit funny when they didn't cover that.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of doing wrong for the right reasons.
Yeah, there's another line later which is similar to it as well. He knows what he's trying to say, but he can't quite verbalise it.
Back at the school, the kids show up, Team Vermin, as they've been called before.
Yeah, but they're in the hall, and Sledge approaches as they laugh about his car trouble. But he's you can tell that he's quite passionate about trying to save these kids.
Yeah.
He tells them that they've still got options. This is actually what I was talking about. He says, you can be good on the side of bad, or bad on the side of good, and bad on the side of bad, or good. He says the options they're obvious. It's easy.
Yes, he gets a bit tongue-tied even.
He then tells them they've got a field trip, and I think they said
They can't go. Their mothers haven't signed the papers.
he says, okay, you're under arrest.
That's it.
So he takes them down the precinct.
They get a bit of a rough introduction.
Yeah, firstly, he describes the place as Club Med for Scum.
He does.
And yeah, they witness a series of violent and scary-looking criminals.
And they seem perturbed by them.
Yeah. There's one guy in particular, I think he just says, I want to kill people.
That guy's brilliant. Trunk gives them a bit of a speech as well, talking about how they'll see the inside of the precinct soon enough, which is where I think you understand that he wasn't really in jail for 2 years for murder.
Yeah, he's trying to play the big man, the tough
All
guy.
talk.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we're seeing Trunk and Dero are not interested, they've given up on these kids, but Hammer is the one who's persevering.
Yeah, but Duro's helping him out at this point. He tries to recruit the kids. He gives them flyers for joining the police, but they're not interested. Cops are jerks, they say.
He tries to sell it a few times, the career of the cop. He says, would you like driving crazy and shoving people around? They say, yeah. And then he hands him the flyer and says, the leaflet, and says, well, become a cop.
The thing is, they believe they've got a career with Roscoe. They don't think he's going to dump them, that they're going to be there working in his cars, making plenty of money the rest of their lives.
Dory, however, explains the reality of the situation.
Yeah, Roscoe's cheating them. He's making so much money and giving them so little.
Yeah, I think she says he makes about $5,000 a car and they get 500 between them.
He's made so much money, he's got like island hideaways and all the upcoming plot lines on Dallas.
Yes.
Which I guess would be worth a significant amount back in 1986.
Yeah, like Miami Vice the other week there, I think Dallas was a show that they were up against.
Yeah, maybe having a wee dig here.
Yeah. So the gang eventually accept that they're getting the short end of the stick, and we see them on the phone to Roscoe.
Yeah, I'm not sure where this phone is, possibly at their garage. They're cutting him out.
Yeah, they're making a foolish... Well, they're doing it in a foolish way, making a decision and implementing it in the wrong way. They're telling Roscoe that it's over. We're walking away.
And they tell each other, yeah, maybe we learned something from Hammer after all.
Yeah.
Possibly only what he wanted them to learn at this point.
Back to the auto shop.
Yeah, they're working on Hammer's car, they're stripping it down, saying it's the first time they've stripped a cop car.
Roscoe appears with his goons and they are heavily armed. They've got old-fashioned Tommy guns.
Yeah, they have to make an example of these guys.
Valentine's Day is coming soon for them.
Yeah, and Turk says, well, you said you could always use us, and he says, we are using you as target practice.
Yep. Just as they're about to get slain, Sledge appears from a room in the shadows.
Yeah, and uses a mirror to trick the bad guys.
Yeah. We witnessed this before in Witless. We have another Batman-esque comedy fight routine where there's, sound effects.
That's exactly what I've written down. It's similar to both of the fight scenes in Witless, actually, the one at the farm and the one in the Don's room, his office. But basically Hammer is commentating on his own fight as he goes along, showing to the kids how fun it is and how this should be something they want to do.
Yes, he's continuing to sell the police as a career.
Yeah, and he's left in a tough position, but he has a hammer.
Uh-huh.
And he's aiming away from Roscoe, and the kids are like, well, he's over there. And Hammer says, I know. He throws the hammer off, I think, 3 walls in behind the black ball, and then takes the gun right out of the hand.
He certainly knows his angles. He'd be a decent pool or snooker player.
Probably is.
So Roscoe jumps into a car to try and escape, and there's a showdown with Hammer.
Looks like he wants to play chicken.
What are the rules of chicken?
First one to turn away is chicken.
I love a challenge. Competition always brings out the best in a person.
Look, Roscoe's got a car, and you don't.
He cheats at everything.
Aren't you afraid of dying?
I don't know. I've never tried it before. I guess this is my final exam. Well, if I don't pass, it's goodbye, Mr. Chips.
Hammer at this point dives through the missing windscreen on the car and arrests Roscoe.
He does. In that clip, a couple of lines that I did like. The first was, competition always brings out the best in a person. Which suggests that in most cases competition will bring out the worst.
Could do, yeah.
And when Turk asks him if he is afraid of dying.
Yeah, and he says he's never tried it before.
So yeah, jumps through the window, brings the whole thing to an end, and we fade or transition to the auto shop sometime later. Dory's there with the other cops.
Yeah, Turk's getting a bit emotional, and he tells Hammer that he was only acting tough because he was afraid, and then there's a brilliant response from Hammer.
Yes, he doesn't like that vulnerability.
No, he says, hey, enough vulnerability.
Typical Hammer.
Yep. We get our epilogue.
Yes, we hear that Turk has enrolled in Police Academy, and the gang have repaired Sledge's car as a show of gratitude.
Essentially, yes. He doesn't like it, though.
Why not?
It's missing all the characteristics that made it his car.
Which were?
Bullet holes in the windscreen, the side of the car, and a big dent in the door.
Well, Sledge, it's understandable. He fires a few rounds into the car, but Dory gets involved.
Yeah, she just takes the opportunity to kick lumps out the door.
Yeah, big high kick.
Yeah, I think Hammer approves.
He certainly does.
That was quite a fun episode.
It was. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was a bit sillier than some of the other ones.
Yeah, I'd put it on a par with last week's.
Mm-hmm. Really enjoyable. And again, I like the episodes where you get that insight into how Hammer thinks and show some of his own vulnerabilities and sensitive nature.
It'll be interesting to see going forward how consistently they stick to the things that they've told us about him.
Mm-hmm. Some trivia.
Excellent.
Not too much this week, Ian, unfortunately for you.
Oh, this is my favourite part of the show. I wait through 25 minutes of garbage for the trivia every week.
October the 31st, 1986, original air date.
Halloween.
Directed by David Witcher, who we've spoken about before. This is the second of 3 Sledgehammer episodes.
Okay.
It was written by 2 people. Jim Fisher. This is his first of 2 Sledgehammer episodes. He has also written for Second City TV, Bobby's World, Young Hercules, and Dragon Tales, to name but a few. His writing partner was Jim Stahl. This was also his first of 2 Sledgehammers, As an actor, he has been in Curb Your Enthusiasm, Bobby's World, Normal Life, Goodnight Beantown, and Mork and Mindy, amongst other things. And as a writer, he has also written for Second City TV, Dragon's Tail, Young Hercules, and Bobby's World. So we've seen this before. It's a writing team.
Yeah, Second City TV seems to have come up a couple of times. I think David Rashi, we said, was connected with them, so I wonder if it's around him that we're maybe he's being asked,
Yeah.
who'd be good to direct a couple of episodes.
Two of the guest stars, Sean Klugman, no relation to Jack Klugman, unfortunately, played Turk. Now, he's only actually been in 5 things, I think. Something to Believe In, Rockula, Not of This Earth, and Hell Riders, in addition to Sledgehammer. Most of that was in a 3-year period, and I think he'd done his last thing was 1998.
Presumably took a career in something other than acting, or movie acting or TV acting.
Norman Alden played Roscoe. He died in 2012, aged 87. He was Lou in Back to the Future.
Was he? Which one was Lou?
Lou was the owner in the 50s of the cafe.
Right.
Give me a Pepsi free.
He doesn't have that.
No.
Doesn't know what that is.
No.
Hilarity ensues.
He has also been in Ed Wood, Murder, She Wrote, The A-Team, The Streets of San Francisco, Super Friends, Rango, not the recent animation, but a show from the 50s or 60s. The original Batman for a couple of episodes, and Leave It to Beaver. A very prolific commercials and voice actor. I think he's been in over 2,500 commercials, either as an actor or a voice actor in them. Most famous in the States for playing Lou the mechanic for AC Delco. Not sure what that is, but I'm sure people in the States might remember.
Who knows?
And as you noted in your summary, or as you nodded to in your summary, the title of this episode is a reference to Goodbye Mr. Chips, the story of an inspiring school teacher.
Okay. The episode, I suppose, kind of tied into that a little bit.
Oh yeah, I think it did. Next week, All Shook Up.
So that's Elvis special.
We shall see.
Before we go, the usual reminders.
Nope, before we get to that, your favourite line.
Oh, of course, because we got in so much trouble last week. The postcards are going to keep coming.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, hey, 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 enough vulnerability. I like that.
Okay. And mine is the War and Peace reference, the first half of War and Peace being his favourite.
I think that's fair enough. My opportunity now to remind people to find us on sledgehammerpodcast.com, where you can chat to us and other listeners about the latest episode or any of the older episodes. Please rate, review us, even subscribe on iTunes, whether that's your favourite podcast place or not, because it helps other people find the show. And if you're a social media type, we're at Sledgecast on both Twitter and on Facebook, so talk to us there and we're bound to reply or gently mock you or something.
We will indeed. That's us then, Ian.
Yeah, well, we'll see folk next week.
Cheerio.
Bye bye.